evening, bookworm folks. I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for Miss Hattie to pop on as well. We are here for our BiblioTalk, first one of 2025. It has been a minute and a half, but all right. Yep, hold on and accept. Is it going to work on the first try? Yes, it is. Look at that. We're getting so good at this.
Did we get it on the first try?
First try. I think we can count the number of times that's happened at least on only no more than two hands.
I was going to say, yeah, like on maybe even one. I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe
Probably.
just one hand would be all it took.
It's probably true. Probably true. Hey, sis.
How you doing? You okay? You sound a little sick.
Yeah, my throat's still a little not, but better. Okay. A lot better.
Good.
Yeah. Went to work today, feeling pretty good, but yeah, I've just been talking a lot today too, so.
Yeah. That trashes your voice, and when it's already a little bit, not great from being sick, yeah.
Yeah, and we had a youth night last night, so there was a lot of joy and yelling.
Exuberance.
Mm-hmm. So we played a pretty fun game that was very loud, but so it was good. But
well, the best games are the loud games. Like
that is so true,
yeah,
right? Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So, anywho, good. How are you doing?
Good. Just FYI to share, even though everybody here doesn't care about football, the Eagles won today and are going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, really? Well, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. I had nothing to do with it, but I did watch it, and I did cheer, from my living room.
The Eagles are your team, man.
Yep.
So that is very exciting, and I appreciate knowing at least one of the teams that's in the Super Bowl. Do we know the other team yet?
We don't know them yet. The Bills are currently playing the Kansas City Chiefs, so the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, I know who
New York
Bills are.
Yes. I was like, I know who the Bills.
The Bills.
Okay.
So, Bill, leave me alone.
I know Bill. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Bill is playing the Kansas City Chiefs as we speak. So yeah, still the first half of that game. So we will know, in a couple hours who wins
at the end of the night.
Yeah,
who's
by the end of the night. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's in the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then this 2 Sundays.
Super Bowl is 2 weeks from today, so it's not next Sunday, but it's the one after that.
Nice, very exciting. Well, I'll know all the teams that are in the Super Bowl this year. That's very exciting. I know all 3 of those teams. Yeah. I've heard of them before. That's not always true.
That is not always true.
So, but good. Okay, so we are, this is our first BiblioTalk for like a month and a half.
A long time, but that's okay.
It's okay. And the first one for 2025.
Yes, which is exciting.
And we're kind of going over 2 different things. One, kind of just like what we're reading right now.
Yeah, basically that's kind of what it is.
And then we did a new like a monthly reading challenge. We picked a new one for 2025, and then we forgot about it immediately.
We probably forgot that we were supposed to do that.
So this month for January, though, we were supposed to find a book about a place that we wanted to visit.
Yes.
And I actually did find one. I'm reading it now. I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's something. That's good.
But I was pretty proud of myself. It was like literally the first one I pulled down. I was like, I think this one, and I was right. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then I don't know, did you find one or no?
I'm gonna go with I didn't look. So and then I was like looking through the books that I read, and I'm like,
no.
Don't really want to go to any of those.
I don't want to visit those places.
Well,
so really, honestly, guys, 2025's reading challenges are going so well.
Off to a fantastic start. Off to like a total like book war start. We're just gonna call it that because this is exactly what it is.
This is what we do. We're a hot mess, and we just own it.
We really do. We're like, oh yeah, we were supposed to do that, and then 2 seconds after we decided to do it, we both forgot.
We both forgot about it. Immediately. We immediately forgot.
I was literally make a decision. Okay, great. And then like just gone. And then
just went right out the brain. I didn't think about it at all until this past week. But Hattie did end up reading some fantasy in January, which she was supposed to do in December. So she's going to talk about those first.
Exactly what I'm going to do. Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So yes, because in December, this was our reading challenge for December, was to read a fantasy. It was like fantasy or sci-fi, I think was the category, right? And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen, Hannah. And it didn't happen in January or in December. But now that I'm thinking about it, if it is fantasy and sci-fi, I did technically read a sci-fi one in December because we read the Audible version of A Stitch in Time, which is actually a Star Trek book. It's a book written by one of the sort of like extra characters. Yeah. From Star Trek Deep Space Nine. His name is Garrick. And he's sort of this like enigmatic character like throughout the whole series. And he's kind of just you never quite know what his deal is. And there's always just these like drops and hints about things. But you never find out. Like you never find out his story, right? His like before story. Or his after story, actually. So this book was written by Garrick. Okay, so this is like from his perspective, but it was actually written by the actor who played Garrick in the show, and then he read the audible version of it, the audio version that we listened to on the drive home. So technically, that was a sci-fi book.
There you go.
So that one should count. You froze. Am I froze? Oh no, you're back. Okay. So maybe we're just having a little bit of a technical issue here, but anyway, so that was sci-fi, and that was pretty good. We also had read the one that was the autobiography of Captain Janeway of Catherine Janeway, which is also read by the actress who played Janeway. She didn't write it, but she read it. That one I think was like a little bit better than the Garrick one. But they were really fun. They're like really fun. Like if you're a Star Trek fan, for sure. Like definitely like read them. If you want, or the audible versions are great because the actors and the actor and the actress who plays the part reads them, and so that like makes it like just that much
fun. Yeah.
So technically, I did end up reading sci-fi in December. But the one that I wanted to share with you guys was actually, and I don't even think I told Hannah about this book yet. This one was called Spinning Silver. And it's by Naomi Novik. Yeah, Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. And this is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. Have you heard of this book, Hannah?
Yeah.
Oh, you have? Yes. Did you read it?
Yeah. I have not read that one of Naomi Novik's. I really like Naomi Novik as a writer for a lot of reasons, but I don't love retellings of fairy tales. I keep reading them, and I don't like them. So
this one was very sort of like, unless you were really looking for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like not a fairy tale. I don't know. I keep because it's a thing right now. There's a ton of them.
It's a total thing.
Yeah. I think Nettle and Bone is the only one I've ever read that I was like, oh, I really liked that.
Yeah, Nettle and Bone was really good for sure. But this one I actually picked it up not because it was a retelling. I didn't really realize that until I was already sort of like listening to it, and I was like, okay, I get it now. But it's because it takes place. It's like a wintry book, like the whole all of the and I love my theme reading. So this was very much like the whole setting. Everything is it's like it's winter, and it's not like Russia proper, like what we think of Russia, but like that's sort of like the environment. We're talking like like Eastern Europe kind of setting, and it's always cold and it's snowy, and so it's very sort of atmospheric in that way. And that's why I actually picked it up to begin with. But then like as I listened to this one on Audible as well, on the audio version of my car, and as it went through, it was like, okay, yeah, you start getting like the hints of the the fairy tale. I mean, this one was Rumpelstiltskin. So obviously kind of Spinning Silver, that kind of makes sense. That would be Rumpelstiltskin. But the thing that I will say is I wouldn't recommend actually reading this one or listening to this one on the Audible. I found it difficult because there's a lot of different storylines from several different characters' points of view. And they didn't do a great job of differentiating like by voice, by demeanor, but it almost just like you had to just sort of like wait until something indicated that it was like something the story indicated. That it was a different person now. So that was a little difficult. And there was no even like within one chapter, like if you were reading it, there would be a break.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I listened to a book like this. It took me, I actually didn't understand what was happening until I picked the book up at the library and I opened it and I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. Like I could not figure out what, There
That's
are
exactly
just
what
some
was.
that are
Yeah.
not great at Audible.
They just
Mm-hmm.
don't like they and like I think if there was different story or if they had different
Mm-hmm.
narrators doing the
Yeah.
different characters, like that would have worked, right? But that's obviously like way
Mm-hmm.
more, you know,
Right. Right.
intensive for recording and all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And like and this woman didn't the narrator doesn't detract the narrator, but she didn't like change her voice
Yeah.
for different
Mm-hmm.
characters, except for like one that was
Mm-hmm.
like a little kid and she kind of put on like a little kid voice, but that
Yeah.
was it. Like the other four women all sounded exactly the same.
It's gonna be tough. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was so that was a little tough. So I would say like if you're really into the retellings, like this is a good one and it's like a
Mm-hmm.
real good
Mm-hmm.
story.
Yeah.
It was definitely intriguing. It was kind of long and I still
Mm-hmm.
listen to it. So
Oh, that's good.
and it
Yeah.
was kind of hard to follow and I still listen to it. You
Still
know what I
listen
mean?
to
So
it.
I think
So
like the
yeah.
story
Yeah.
is like
It's
pretty
good.
intriguing and interesting.
Yeah.
And it's only very vaguely a
Mm-hmm.
retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. Just to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if you like atmospheric, like wintry stuff, it's really good for
Mm-hmm.
that as well. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was a fun one. I didn't have any trouble with it other than just like the audio version was just kind of hard to follow,
Yeah.
um, because there wasn't clear differentiation between
Right.
the characters who were like telling the
Yeah.
story at the time, right? Whereas I
Yep.
know if I had the book in front of me,
You
it would
would
have been
have been.
obvious that oh
Yeah.
yeah, we just
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my fantasy. That was like my fantasy
Mm-hmm.
book. Oh, and then this is the other one that I just finished that Hannah
Oh yeah.
loaned me. And this is sort of a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's Fall of Usher, The House of Usher. And
Mm-hmm.
this was just like, yeah, too
I
good. I read
love.
it in like
In fact, I
a
have
day
the
and a
second
half,
one.
like,
Yeah.
and done. That was so good. I just like sat there and just like
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Hannah. She'll
Seeking.
get hers back, but I'm gonna get one too because this was so good.
There's a second one, and I have it. I haven't read
Okay,
it yet.
yeah, because she said it was like number one in the something
Yeah.
soldier series or something. I can't
Yeah.
remember what it was called, but
I think there's only two out right now.
okay.
I think so far, but yeah. She wrote Nettle and Bone. That's T.
Yeah, she
Kingfisher.
wrote Now on Bone,
Yeah.
exactly, which we both read
Yeah.
and we both really like that too.
Yeah. The one I read I read Naomi Novak. I read the fairy tale one I read was Uprooted. I'm pretty sure that's
Oh,
what it's
okay.
called, Uprooted.
Mm-hmm.
Something about roots, but I'm pretty sure it's like Uprooted. And it was fine. It wasn't like a bad book. It just wasn't a huge thing. But I got introduced to her in her oh gosh, I can see the front of it and I'm not going to
Oh,
be
I
able
hate
to
that.
tell you the name of the book, but it's the story of, it's a trilogy, but I really only liked the first book, like that much.
Happens, yeah.
But it's a story of a girl who is in a school, like, right, like, but but she's like the villain and she's like kind of like she's supposed to be the bad person. And it's like such an anti-hero, like delightful.
Yeah.
She is hilarious. And I want to say something about Graduate, but that's not, I can't, anyway, but that Naomi Novak series, I really like the first book a ton. The other two, I mean, they were fine, but I'm like, so not, sometimes I'm just
You
like,
get
come
over
on,
it real
like,
fast. You're like, one
yeah,
and done, people. Just like one and done. It's fine.
it's hard to maintain that level of snark
Yeah.
for 3 books.
For 3 books. It
So,
is. Yeah.
but yeah, I really I liked that character a ton. So
Yeah.
she's definitely worth checking out, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Good author,
Yeah.
good writer. Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
pick up
And
something from
yeah.
Naomi Novak. You
Yeah.
won't regret it. Or T Kingfisher. They're both
Or
really
T.
good.
Kingfisher. I've not read anything by T. Kingfisher that I didn't like.
Yeah, if you're just
Some of
like, and
it's
that's the thing
real
too.
weird. Like
Yeah,
some of it's
totally weird. Totally weird. Like that, the Fall of the House of Usher, totally weird. You know what all I could think
totally
of though,
weird.
Hannah?
What?
Was you reading that mushroom book? That mushroom book that you read last year that you loved so much? And there was like so much mushroom
So
stuff in here. I'm like, oh my God, that's like all I could think about the whole
I
time was
know.
like
I
your
know.
mushroom fetish.
I know. Mycelium is like so in right now.
I know. So funny. So
Between
funny.
the Last of Us and like all the mushroom, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a thing.
It's
It's
a
a real
thing.
thing.
It's
It's
like there's
having
a
a moment.
trend. Yeah, it's having its moment. That's exactly.
Mushrooms are for
Trending.
real trending.
Mushrooms are trending right now.
They
They actually
are.
are. They make like coffee, like mushroom coffee or something. I'm like, no,
No,
that can't be
well, they
right.
do make mushroom, but they also have like, if you go to any bookstore or any paper store, like there's just mushroom
Yes,
stuff all over the
it's
place.
everywhere.
Like
Mushrooms.
stationery, coffee mugs, like
It's a
all of it is covered in
thing.
mushrooms. I'm just like,
So
they're
funny.
having a
They are
moment.
having their moment. So good luck to
Yeah, like
mushrooms. Hope your moment lasts.
here's the hoping.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, so those are my
yeah.
my December reads, and honestly, I didn't read anything this month that would qualify as something that like I want to go there. I do not want to go to the House of Usher.
No, don't go there.
Scary. I don't want to go there.
So I did end up reading a fantasy book this month as well. I've read quite a few, actually. This is my fourth one.
Great
But
job.
I reread the whole series of Rebecca Roanhorse's Between Earth and Sky. It's a trilogy. I'm gonna do a review for the series.
Yeah.
But I got through half of it and then I stopped. I got distracted and sick, and my kids got sick, so it didn't happen this week. But that is still coming. But I also had picked up, it's called A Study in Drowning.
Oh, okay.
By Ava Reed. And this is the book I bought that has like these amazing edges. Mm-hmm. And I really just bought it because it was a beautiful book. I just want to be really clear. And then this is it without its dust jacket.
Oh, it's still beautiful.
It's such a pretty book. Isn't that?
Yes.
It's very pretty. And it's the beginning of at least a duology, because there's another book coming out. I did not love it as much as I wanted to love it.
Yeah, that happens.
I think I'm keeping the book because it's beautiful, and it doesn't matter that I didn't love the book. That's like absolutely immaterial at this point. But I think for me, this is a bit of a content warning.
Okay.
It is about women not having autonomy over their bodies, and there's a particular thing that the main character, a particular moment of power with advisor. It happens, or it's talked about at the very beginning, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but like it becomes kind of this piece throughout all of it. Mm-hmm. And I have figured out for myself as a reader, I really struggle. It's the same reason I had to stop reading Womb. I just really struggle to read, and I think it's important. I think these are important stories to be telling, and I think so I'm all for it. But for myself, I really struggle to pick up the book and keep entering into that world where young girls particularly are trying to navigate what it is to not have bodily autonomy. And again, I think that's a really important thing to be telling, and really, to be out there and for people to be able to sink into that. And it is just a really frustrating, like I just get angry and I just want to throw the book away. So it's usually
that's fair. I mean,
like, angry at the situation, angry, like, it's just frustrating. So that's just a bit of that. Like, and so I think that for some people this would be extremely healing, and could be really helpful and add voice and agency in the midst of that. And spoiler, she finds agency at the end. I don't think that that's really a spoiler.
Probably not much
I think
of a spoiler.
that's really,
no, I mean, that's what everybody would hope for.
Exactly. And that does happen. But and I didn't love her. Mm-hmm. I didn't love her. So I just
hard too. Yeah.
I mean, I would not, if anybody read it or read the dust jacket and was like, oh, this seems interesting to me, pick it up. Absolutely pick it up. There is no reason not to read it.
Yeah.
But
it just wasn't your favorite. That's okay.
It just wasn't my favorite. It was a little overly complicated in certain parts. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And maybe that's like set up.
Tedious.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I feel like you're being a little overly complicated here. So,
yeah.
But it is very atmospheric. It's like, it is very like, kind of like Halloween-y. Like, it kind of, she goes to this house and it's very like falling down, rain, the whole thing. So, that if you like that kind of stuff, that it would be helpful or it would be fun read for people for that way. So, yeah.
Very good.
So what I am reading right now, which is a place that I want to go, is I'm reading this book called The Searcher by Tana French, which, to be fair, I very rarely will buy a book that has the author's name larger than the name of the book. Yeah. It's kind of a thing I have. I do not remember why I picked this one up, because I pulled it really big, and I'm like,
her name is very big.
I know. I really don't. I just like, it's like one of those things I'm like, no.
You're a little full of yourself. I'll leave your book on the shelf. Yeah.
Exactly. But it is set in a remote Irish village, and it's a bit of a mystery. Retired cop from Chicago moves there, starts a house, meets a local kid. He's lost his brother's run away or is gone, has disappeared. And so this is kind of the thing. And it's very good, and I'm enjoying it. It's very like, it's like beautiful Ireland and like learning about the mountains. And I'm pretty sure the woman who wrote it, Tana French, I read that she at least is living with her family in Dublin. I don't know if she herself is Irish,
Yeah.
but it didn't tell me that. But I just remember reading it somewhere that she lives in
Yeah.
Dublin with her family. So, because I was like, oh, because I told Hattie I wanted to find one that was written by somebody from that place too.
Yeah.
But
Like both the
so
things. Yeah.
I didn't go deep into the
Yeah.
research of that, which I could have, but I
But
didn't. So
yeah,
yeah.
since nobody cares. And I didn't even do it. You know.
You
There's
want to
that.
go to you like England? You can go to the English countryside. You just don't want to go to the House of
That's true.
Usher.
I just don't want to go to the house of Usher. But I'm going to tell you about the book that I am reading that I definitely don't want to go to this place.
Oh yeah.
But it's so good. This book is really, really good, and there's so many like amazing connections. So this one is called Madness: Race and
Mm,
Insanity in Jim Crow Asylum, by Antonia Hilton.
that sounds fascinating.
No, it is amazing, is what it is. So this asylum, Hannah, I was like, the whole time I'm reading this, it's called Crownsville, and it's in Annapolis, Maryland, and I'm like, I have read
Yeah,
The
two
Immortal
or
Life
three
of
now.
Henrietta Lacks 3 times, twice
Oh yeah.
this past year, and I'm like, I wonder if this is the mental hospital that Henrietta Lacks's oldest daughter, Elsie, gets put into,
Oh
and then
yeah.
she dies there. And I'm thinking this the whole time that I'm like listening to this book. And we get about, I don't know, maybe like halfway through the book. And the author has a whole chapter about Elsie Lax and about Rebecca Skloot's research, and
Wow.
Deborah, who is Elsie's sister, who is still alive and went
Mm-hmm.
with, well, actually, she's not still alive now, but she was when Rebecca Skloot was writing the book. Um, and they went, Rebecca Skloot, the
Mm-hmm.
author of The
Mm-hmm.
Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and then Deborah, who is
Yep.
Henrietta Lacks's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
Elsie's sister, they went
Wow.
to Crownsville. And the person
That's
that they
crazy.
talked to was the same person that this author, Antonia Hilton, talked to when she went
True.
there. And so there's like all of these connections happening, and I'm like, oh
Mm,
my goodness. But anyway, this book is phenomenal.
mm-hmm. Okay.
It's really, really good. And she's doing a really great job
Mm-hmm.
of talking about both simultaneously, without sort of without like neglecting either, both like just how
Mm-hmm.
mental health was
Mm-hmm.
viewed and treated,
Yeah.
that is definitely in air quotes, treated,
We did. Yeah.
um up until, I mean,
Yeah.
really
Right.
up until like the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
It was very, very, very badly across the board. It was very, very bad. So she talks a lot about that, but then she talks specifically about Crownsville
Right.
and the role that racism played in
Yeah.
that particular hospital, in Annapolis, Maryland. Like, this is not a spoiler, I'm just gonna say, because this comes up at the very beginning.
Yeah.
The patients at the hospital, the people who
Mm-hmm.
were going
Mm-hmm.
to be housed in this hospital, they were all Black people, and
Yeah.
they had to build the hospital themselves, free labor, because they didn't get paid, right? They had to build their own hospital before. Yeah, I mean, this book is amazing.
Wow.
It's so amazing, and it really, she just does a really good job of highlighting both of these issues, um
Right.
without sort of like a not at the expense of
Either one.
one or the
Yeah.
other, right?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, and she's doing a great job. So I definitely don't want to go to Crownsville. It's closed now,
Mhm.
so
No.
it no longer exists. I think she said 2004. I feel like she said it closed in 2004. I'm not 100%
Hopefully,
sure on that.
did they destroy it? I hope they destroyed it.
I don't know. She hasn't said, like if the whole building, because it's a building complex,
Yeah.
right? There was a bunch of
I
different
know.
buildings because it was a
Yeah.
place where people,
Yeah.
lived. Um, but she talks a lot about like the crazy treatments,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely like, if you are at all sort of like interested in just really interesting American history stuff,
Yeah. Yep.
racism and the role it's played in the mental health industry, and just mental
Mm-hmm.
health industry in general
Yeah.
in the 19th century into our 20th century now. It's definitely our 21st, I should say 20th century, and then 21st century.
Yeah.
Um, it's really great. I'm listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's really, really good. And
Okay.
I'll just say it again. It's called Madness,
Madness.
Race and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum, and it's by Antonia Hilton.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's great. Yeah.
So I'll tell you my little not my little, it's not little, my nonfiction that I'm reading right now too.
Not little nonfiction.
It's not little nonfiction. So I started, for a lot of years I've been a little like voyeuristic at Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, yeah.
She's just been a figure that's come up time and time again, and I've been like, oh, I should read something about her. You know, just she's popped up in different stuff in different ways, and I was like, I really should read something about her. I'm really intrigued by her, and I finally found a biography that was written by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of written about her, but most of it's by men.
Yeah.
And so I bought. It's just a funny story. At Half Price Books.
Yeah.
And there was a 2-volume thing. I was like, oh, okay, I get the 2 volumes. It's 3 volumes.
How many more volumes are there that you didn't get?
So it's been incredibly good. I've actually been listening to it, but I have the books as well. And my mom has the first 2 now. She loves biographies. I just have a hard time reading like physical biographies, but I love listening to these biographies. And this has been so fascinating around Eleanor Roosevelt. But my 3rd volume is Eleanor Roosevelt, Volume 3, The War Years and After.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it has been both incredibly heartbreaking and incredibly relevant.
Yeah.
Which is also heartbreaking.
Which is heartbreaking in and of itself.
Which is heartbreaking as well. So with the rise of fascism in Europe, and what countries did and didn't do, and the Roosevelts' participation in that, and from her perspective, from Eleanor Roosevelt's perspective particularly, like, and the author, I'm sorry, it's by Blanche. Of course, they covered the front page, the front of her name, so I can't read it.
A sticker, yeah.
Blanche Weiss and Cook. Blanche Weiss and Cook.
Yep.
But she was talking about, so I'm pretty sure this is 1939, that we're talking about the Congress of 1939 and the isolationism that was happening, and America First language, like that was the name, or that was the movement, and the deep entrenchment that Congress had has been helpful on one hand to realize, I think, sometimes in our current political atmosphere, we feel like, oh, it's never been this bad. And I think it's only never been this bad for us, but it has been this bad before. Like, there has been these same arguments, these same issues. And, you know, I mean, we don't know the future, but it is also that there is a history here that we don't all really know about, because we don't know, right? Like, no one talked about it, and those who were alive then, who were grown up enough to have even cared, even if they were, are almost
pretty much.
So.
Well, yeah. Anybody
at this point, it's over almost 100 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, so it's been really, really interesting, and if you are interested in Eleanor Roosevelt, I would absolutely recommend this particular set of books to you. It will take you time and commitment.
But
you gotta commit.
Yeah.
But it is fascinating, and I think Blanche Weiss and Cook does a really good job of not sugarcoating, nor pretending that like who Eleanor and Franklin D. Roosevelt were together wasn't, in a lot of ways, started out as love, and like there was love and respect, but also like they were what we would call, like, in modern society, a power couple. But there was like a deep, like, their relationship, the way that Weiss and Cook talks about it, is like very much what I think a lot of us as modern couples would love to have, actually. Yeah. And they just found it in a different way because of their probably aristocracy, if that's the right word. I'm not,
their circumstance, their circumstance at a particular moment in time, which is what we all have, right? Like,
and who they were individually, and then how they chose to like live into that, seems very equitable and respectful of both parties. Yeah. Not everybody would agree with me on that. Yeah. Because I mentioned this to some folks who have read about Franklin D,
And they don't quite agree with me on that. I haven't read anything on Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So I'm only seeing this whole story through this particular perspective at this moment. I just want to be really clear about that. So, and again, like that is, it has been 3 books this size of that perspective. So
that's what you're
grain of salt, you know, but it's been really good and it's been really hard at the same time. Because it's like 100 years later, and I feel like we're having the exact same argument again.
We are. I mean,
in a lot of ways.
Like, and this is the thing that people don't ever seemed to struggle with, I should say, with history in and of itself, because we all think that our moment is the most intense moment, right?
Yes,
of history.
Whatever it is, whatever emotion it is, this is the most.
This is it, right?
This is the most.
No one has ever experienced this before, right? This is unique. This is special. This is also part of our American exceptionalism ideology that we have, right? It's pounded into us to the point where this is actually how we think, and we think that this moment in time is like is so unique and special, and not always in a good way, obviously, right? But but the thing is if you actually study history, if you actually look closely, you know, or sometimes you don't have to look that closely, you just look at, you know, at the history of America, at the history of the world, you find out very quickly that almost every generation goes through these sorts of things, right? Like in their own context, right?
I think different, right? They're both, there is a particularity about it, and there's deep patterns in the historical contexts, right? Like there is a particularity about, like we talked like COVID, right, in 2020, but like 1919 was the Spanish flu epidemic, like pandemic, like it was a pandemic as well. And like
in their context, but yes,
in their,
you know,
context, right? Like, but it is, I don't remember what I was reading, and I was like, oh my God, it was in 1919? And then it was like 2020. It's like it had a freak out for a little bit there, like it was a little, but it was, you know, and you forget, like, it didn't happen to me, so I didn't think about it. And it looked different in 2020 than it looked in 1919. But there are these long going patterns as well that sometimes it's like, okay, just get a little bit above this exact moment and you can breathe again. Doesn't mean you're breathing good air all the time. No, it doesn't. But you can breathe.
And it doesn't dismiss any of it, right? It doesn't dismiss or negate or devalue any of the stuff that we're going through in the emotional, you know, baggage.
It doesn't diminish any of the emotional what we're feeling.
It doesn't mean that we still don't have to work for something that we want, right? The thing that's better that we want, we still have to work for that. We can't just like rest on our laurels and be like, oh, well, it'll sort itself out because it's done it before. That's not how
it's
this
only
works
done
either.
it before because people worked really hard at it.
Yeah. And now we're back to where they started. So even with a lot of hard work, these things can go back again. And we still then have to work hard to, you know, get to the place that we want to go, right? So yeah, but that's just oftentimes a thing that like I teach young people, and like this is a thing that they struggle with, that like their experience, which is quite limited, isn't the entirety of human experience.
Or the very first time somebody's experienced what you're experiencing. Yeah. And I think we all at times have to like.
We were all 20, and we all thought, you know, we were so grown up and we knew so much.
Obviously.
I mean, we were all there. So
but we're getting there. But anyway,
that's great. Yeah, I'm glad.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Very good.
Fantastic. Super interesting.
Bless you.
Thank you. And there's just like, I have to say, there's a really interesting, and this particular one is very political. The other two aren't quite as politically, I mean, they're politically astute, but they're just not, it's not quite as like global and like, because it wasn't, that's not what
wasn't the same time. Yeah, they're chronological. So
it's really, it's been interesting. So Mom told me the other day, she said, like, oh, I'm in the second one already. I'm like, well, you're gonna have to wait for the third one because I'm still.
You're going faster than me, so
going a lot faster than me. And I think this is the last one. I think.
When she hunkers
but maybe there's
down, she hunkers down. That mom of ours, she's like, okay, I'm in it to win it, and she does too.
It goes from 1939 to 1962.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still in 1939, and I'm already in like I think I'm in chapter 5. and until
Well, like, I'm
1939.
guessing the war years will probably be the bulk of it, because
Yeah.
then after that she would have left the
Yeah.
White House, and
Yeah.
and Franklin
It'll
died,
change.
and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But, so anyway,
So anyway, very good. Okay,
I didn't.
but you'd be proud of me.
Did
I'm
you?
sorry. What?
Did you do it? Did you look it up?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Oh God, I forgot to look it up again.
I looked it up. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, you're gonna be proud of me because I looked it up before we jumped on. You're also gonna laugh your butt off. Are you ready for it?
What is it? Is it a romance?
Classic romance.
Okay. Is that like? What do you think? Is that like Jane Austen? Is that what we're thinking? Like classic romance?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Or like Jane Eyre, like that kind of like. Okay.
Yep.
You might have to pick one. Well, I think I have Sense and Sensibility. I don't think I've ever actually read it. I don't think I've ever
I've read
read Pride
all
and Prejudice.
of them. I have got all of them on my shelf, and I've read every one of them on my
And
shelf.
I don't think I've only read Persuasion. It's
yes,
my
I know
favorite.
you've only read Persuasion. Yeah, because we read it for book club. That's the only reason you read it.
No. I read it before that. It's the only one I've ever read. I do read Persuasion. Persuasion is the only one I've ever read. But otherwise, I just watch the movies. Why? The BBC movies are just as good, and they're a lot less time.
They are good. There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
So,
the movies are great. So
I think I tried Pride and Prejudice once, and I was like, "What in the world is happening?"
Like, it's just so messed up. Yeah, no. I think I have all of them. I mean, I think I have all of those on my shelf, and I'm positive I've read all of them. But
I haven't read it in a super long time. Sorry, I was just thinking, what's the Heathcliff one?
Oh no,
I forget the name of that.
No, it's I can never remember the name of this one.
Is it like
is it Northanger Abbey?
No, Northanger Abbey is Jane Austen's creepy one, but that Heathcliff is by
a
Bronte.
I always get the Bronte sisters ones confused with.
Yeah.
Okay, because the Heathcliff one is the Bronte sisters.
Is one of the
That's
Bronte sisters.
I can't.
I know it's their gothic romance.
I forget the name of this book every single time.
It's like it has the Moors in it, and I read it when I was in college for like
super weird. It's like the totally weirdest, like darkest, yuckiest one. Yeah. And like for some reason, the first time I read it, I'm like, this is crap. I don't even like. But then for some reason, I kept like picking it up, and like the more you read it, the less you hate it because the characters are complicated and super flawed and like actually like mentally unstable, and so they become more interesting
once you like realize really what's happening.
Once you actually like understand that, like, oh wow, these people are damaged goods, all of them, right? And you start like framing it that way instead of like framing it like a romance, right? Because otherwise, it's really weird. Or not even Jane Eyre is a little darker of the ones. I was thinking of the. Oh my gosh, Jane Austen. That's the name I was trying to come up with.
Yeah.
Hers aren't dark like that, right?
Only Northanger Abbey, and it's not even that dark. But
I don't know why I cannot remember. This is so frustrating. I forget the name of this one every time. It annoys the crap out of me when I forget the name of this book. I'm just
gonna say you're the classicist in this relationship. So,
but I think it's funny. I'm not kidding. Like this book, every time someone asks me the name of this book, I literally can tell you the entire book, and then Charlotte Bronte wrote it, and I just
and Heathcliff is the main character. Is the guy.
I mean, I can tell you the whole storyline. Like I've read it like 5 times. Like, but I forget the name of this stupid book.
I do think it's the name of the house, though, or like the moors that they're on. Like, I think it's a name of a place.
I think it is too. That's why I was like, it's Northanger Abbey, but I don't think it is.
It's not. That's okay.
But I can't look it up because we're on our phone. So,
well, everybody else will be laughing at us because they're like, you guys read.
Knows the name of this book.
You read. You don't even know the name of that book. It's blah, 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 blah.
To be honest, like there are so many books that I read that I don't even know the name of.
It's so true.
So, it's very bad when you read them on your Kindle because you never like you pick up a book and you see the front page every time
over and over and over again.
But when you read it on your Kindle,
I have to tell you,
never see it.
You just showed me that book, and I can't tell you the name of that book. It's just the Dead Rabbit book by T. Kingfisher.
When you asked me about it the other day, I was telling you about it. I'm like, it's that book you gave me. There's something dead in the
title with the weird rabbit. I'm like, oh yeah, the Dead Rabbit book.
Moves the dead.
The dead. Oh yeah, it's so creepy. It's so good creepy. I knew you were gonna love that one.
You're totally right. It's totally creepy and weird, and it is like really very good. And I'm not kidding you. I literally started it one day and I finished it the next day.
No, I'm not surprised by that. It's
It
not
is
a
really
hard
short,
read
though,
at all.
too, so it is like a
Yeah,
little
it's really
short.
short. But so okay, we're gonna read some classic romance, and I do think I might look up the word. I might just look up classic romance, but I might just look on my shelf too. And if I have one, I'll just read whatever I have on my shelf. So
I'll look through mine and see if there's any that I haven't read of those.
I've not read any of Jane Austen's other than Persuasion, so I think I have Sense and Sensibility on there, so I might just read that.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay. I don't think we have.
All right, we have no idea when our next one is.
Yeah, we'll have to let people know when we figure that out.
Whenever we feel like it.
That's exactly when it'll happen. Yeah. Maybe next month sometime. That's what we're gonna go with. Maybe next month
sometime in February. Maybe if we feel like it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for anyone who's still with us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And happy reading. Enjoy it and have a great night. See you, sis.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.